Hi everyone and welcome to another stroke analysis with Coach Micah. Today we're going to look at Matt. He's a 4.0 USTA player here in Colorado. And I have put him next to Novak Djokovic because obviously Djokovic has one of the best backhands in the business. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let the backhand here run a couple of times just so that you get an idea of what the backhand looks like, and then we'll break it down. So let's start with the preparation here. So I like the really low ready position, the ready stance, the athletic ground position here. So your center of gravity is low, knees bend, all good. And then let's look at the next step in the preparation. You're taking the racket back, getting the left hip back here, left shoulder back, so that the right side of your body aligns with the ball. That's what you want to do. You're loading off your back leg, and you'll see that there's not as much weight on the back foot, on the front foot, sorry. You have it all on your back foot, and as you're getting closer to making contact with the ball, your body weight shifts forward. So those are all really good things. Your take back is good. It's not too big, not too small. Racket head is above your wrist. That is very good. And you let the racket come under the ball, and that is mainly because you have a really good low stance. So that all is really good. Now let me see if I can line this up properly with Novak here. You see that his take back is maybe a little more shallow. It's not coming quite up as much. And here we go. So the racket head dips under the ball. The racket face actually faces to the ground almost. So you have that in common. That is really good. However, the next thing you see, that is where I see the biggest difference. Here, if we look at Novak, his upper body is completely straight and upright, and you're leaning a little bit. So that is, I think, one of the reasons why you're then, once you're making contact, as you're coming up to contact, you're leaning further and further, and you're pulling off to the right and up. And if you compare that to Novak here, see how his head is really, really still. I mean, his head almost doesn't move at all. If I'm just going to go back and forth here a little bit. Of course, his eyes stay on the ball. And you can't really see the contact because it's too quick. But just imagine to look at the back of the ball, because that really helps stabilize the head a little bit. So looking at the contact at the back of the ball is a really good tool to keep your upper body and your head a little calmer. And then on the follow through, again, his head hasn't moved yet. Right? And if I'm looking here, you're pulling up and out a little bit. So I think that is one of the things that we can work on, just a little bit more balance. Let's finish this here. Again, his head still hasn't moved. You're still thinking he's looking at where the contact was, somewhere here. Again, you can't see that, it's too quick. But that is a really, really good example of how he's helping himself remain balanced and completely in control of that ball. So those are a couple of things that I think we can work on. We're also going to take a look at your backhand from the back, but that is it from the side view. All right, so let's take a look at the backhand from the back. The first ball I'm feeding pretty much straight to you, but what that allows you to do is to have a good preparation and proper spacing to the ball. So we're seeing that here. You're loading off the back leg. That's exactly what we want. And what you're also having a lot better in this one, your outside leg, your left leg, is further behind the ball than on another shot that I'm going to show you in a second. So what we're always trying to do to gauge the distance to the ball is get the outside leg behind the ball. Of course, you're not going to be perfectly behind the ball because you have the extension of the racket. But you do want to have a solid base off your left foot so that you can then get your entire body weight shifting forward. So the distance here is good. So I'll try to take a little measurement here to hopefully illustrate that point a little bit better. So let's run this a little bit further, and you'll see the next thing that I really like on this is because you're lined up properly, you're not pulling over into the right with your upper body. Your upper body is fairly straight and it remains straight as you're hitting. So now let's look at the next ball that I'm feeding out a little bit more. And I think we can already see that your outside leg is not quite as much over and behind the ball because your right leg, your right foot here is a little further over than the left and further over than it was on the previous shot. So if I can line this up properly as you're making contact right here, if I'm now using the exact same measurement that we had before, you see that there is a gap. And now you're also seeing that here your head is already pulling over to your right and out. And as you're coming around with that entire shot, you're having to twist over this way to stay in balance. And your left foot swings around more so as a measure to really stay in balance rather than a release of the energy going into the ball and around with your entire rotation. So just that, I think, is something that we can work on. To me, it's more of a footwork issue and a spacing issue than anything else. So if you look at that one more time, here you're reaching out, and your head is already pulling over a little bit. And where the head goes is where everything else of your body is following. So if we can fix that we're getting a little bit better positioning here with that left leg, that outside leg behind the ball, then I think you'll have a much better chance of having a more consistent backhand.